If this episode resonated, please share it with another mum who might need it. Follow us on socials at Burnout Mamas.
Check out our journey and we will help you to reconnect with yourself again. Please subscribe and download to all our episodes. It helps us a ton and keeps this podcast going.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hello. Happy Friday, Burnout Mamas. And we have got an amazing guest on today. So a little bit about Anne. Anne Blythe helps women see the truth about themselves, recognises harm and responds with strategies and strengths to help them. She's the Executive Director of Betrayal Trauma Recovery, an online community for women's experiencing betrayal in marriage. She also is the host of the Betrayal Trauma Recovery podcast. So it's all about when marriage feels confusing and
relationships
and how it really affects burnout. So we're so excited to have you today.
And it's such a big conversation as well, because one that so many, I think, women go through silently. And obviously we talk a lot about burnout, but we don't always talk about what's causing it underneath. So for a lot of women, it's obviously what's happening in their relationship. Hence, we've got you on and we cannot wait to hear what you've got to say about it.
And you're all the way from
Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah, we love it.
We love it.
Thank you for coming on early. It's late for us.
Yeah. Happy to be here. Thank you guys. I love what you do. Burnout is such a huge issue for moms, and I've experienced, I experience it every day. I think it's so hard. Like there's so many things we have on our minds, and the mental load is just so intense. It is not the funnest, right? So I'm so glad you're doing this.
That's right. And then obviously when you come home at night or you're with your partner, and then if you've got a little bit of strain in your relationship, I can almost imagine that adds to it. Rather than supporting you, it causes a lot of stuff to go on in the background as well. So this is why I'd love to talk about it and explore it a bit more in depth.
Yeah. And what actually is betrayal trauma? Can we tell our listeners?
Yeah, let's start with that. So I really like to focus on the main problem, which is when your partner is lying to you and you don't know. So when that is happening, he is betraying you, but you're not aware of it. So there's a few things we'll talk about today. The first is when he's lying and you don't know what that's going to look like, what that's going to feel like. Then there's if you do know, right? You do know he's betrayed you. It's not a totally different thing, but it's just a different part of the problem. And then for women, some women remain married. And at Betrayal Trauma Recovery, we don't ever prescribe what we think the outcome should be. We believe that women can make their own choices about what they want to do with the information that they have. We do give women strategies to determine what's going on and then to be able to face it. But those strategies don't include working on your marriage or getting divorced or anything like that. So they can make those decisions. And then the third thing to talk about is maybe single moms who are burnt out and they're dealing with an ex who is undermining them or an ex that is doing things. And that is extremely difficult and causes so much burnout. So those three factors. So do you want to start with when he's lying or betraying you and you don't know maybe what that
I think that's really intriguing.
Yeah, really interesting.
So. Definitely. Yeah. Obviously, where you mentioned with the single mum as well, like when people are co-parenting, I can imagine that causes a lot of friction as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if he has a character of deceit, it's going, and that's one reason why we don't talk about whether you should get divorced or not. I suffered from post-divorce abuse, emotional and psychological abuse for 8 years post-divorce. So just from my experience, divorce doesn't really solve that issue. And so you really need strategies whether you're married or not, because no matter what your situation is, he could continue to lie. And you may or may not be aware of it, either before marriage or after. So let's talk about that first. The place where women have a confusing marriage and he may be lying to them and she might not know. And that is actually a lot more common. I'm not trying to freak everybody out, but it's a lot more common than women realize, because if he's lying, then he's going to give another reason. He's going to say he's stressed at work, and he could be stressed at work. So it's really difficult to figure out, is he actually stressed at work or is he lying? And he could be, I don't know, the reasons he could give are many. He's suffering from his childhood wounds. He didn't have a good relationship with his mom. There's all these kinds of reasons why he might be very irritable, and he'll give you some reasons, and those might not be true. The reasons might not be true.
Sorry to interrupt, but would money issues, and I've seen this a lot in so many people, when they're under money pressure, I think that causes a lot of lying and them trying to keep their ego, keep the family running, but causing so much tension underneath it all.
Yeah. And financial, I'm going to call it financial abuse, really. That type of lying is also another form of betrayal, right? So he might not be lying about an affair, but he might be lying about gambling, or he might be lying that he got a demotion at work. He's getting paid less. Some men have lied to their wives that they got fired, that he didn't tell her, right? She doesn't know. Maybe they keep their bank account separate or something, and so she's not aware. So this betrayal shows up in many different forms. It's not, when I say that, it's not just affairs. It could be lying about anything where you're not aware of something that is deeply, deeply affecting your marriage, and he is telling you it's for some other reason. And so you're not aware of what it is. And that kind of stress is really hard. So one of the things that we help women see is just look for the patterns. So for example, if he's really stressed about a job, then if he gets a new one, do those behaviors continue? Are they the exact same? And then he just has another reason. Most people, if they actually have a reason, they're not going to show this pattern of irritability and anger in forever. It will be specific to a situation. And when that situation is resolved, those behaviors will be resolved. So watching for those patterns. The hard thing when you're married to someone is you always think then it's something else, and you're always working toward progress, right? Every marriage, you want things to improve, and you're trying to improve over time. So realizing that it's not like this is what we all think. Okay, we'll get better. Oh, we had a hard time. Oh, we're getting better. Oh, we had a hard time. But overall, it's getting better. Women think that that's what's happening sometimes, when really it's just they're going around in circles and they don't realize it. So how do we determine whether or not it's actually getting better, or if we're going around in circles? And that is what my podcast is for. That's what we do at Betrayal Trauma Recovery. And I have found that if women are curious and they're like, is this happening to me? And they listen to my podcast, they will 100% know if it's happening to them. Because the women that it's not happening to, they that are not being lied to, they listen to all these women's stories and they're like, this doesn't sound like me. They can't relate to it. So if women listen to my podcast and they're like, I don't really relate, then their husband's not lying to them. I mean, I know that's a really simple way of saying it, but I've interviewed over 200 women who have experienced this. And when they tell their stories, they share these details that are really interesting. And if you're going through that, if your husband has said these things, you'll be like, oh my word, that's the exact same thing he said. That's exactly what happened. And you'll realize it's going on. Women who it's not happening to, they listen to my podcast and they think, oh, I feel so bad for her. I'm so grateful that's not happening. So it's a pretty easy way to determine if what you're experiencing is just regular relationship ups and downs, or if he's systematically been hiding something from you, which is really important. Because if he is hiding from you, the burnout's going to be intense, because your whole reality is going to be distorted a little bit. Also, if he's using energy that should be going toward the family, like your personal relationship, your intimate relationship, your financial relationship, if he's doing that somewhere else, then of course the burnout is going to increase, because you don't actually have a partner.
True.
And so you're going to be doing a lot more than you would otherwise.
And how does that affect women, like how you've seen, like physically and emotionally, for your experience?
It's really interesting. I've interviewed so many women, like I almost want to say countless, who were suffering from things like fibromyalgia or some type of like, it's leaving my mind right now, but like they're getting infections a lot, or they're just really tired. Autoimmune disorders, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
Women who are suffering from autoimmune disorders, they're just struggling with their health. And once they know what's actually happening, those symptoms just go away. They don't have those problems anymore. That is always surprising to me.
And it's so true, because we have such a busy like lifestyle as it is. Having that, that unbalance when you go home to your husband,
yeah,
I think that is such a big impact on you, isn't
I
it?
strongly believe as well. And then it's like coming back to yourself and your soul. If something isn't right in your life, it does affect you. So just quickly, I was in a bit of an abusive relationship a long time ago, but I was always exhausted because I was obviously second questioning things. And when I came out of that relationship, I realized how exhausted I was in it because of how unhealthy it was. And I felt like a different person. Like I cannot explain it. And I do believe the situations you're in do affect your sort of well-being and cause illnesses. So this is so
because you're in a
important.
stressful environment, but not realizing you're in a stressful environment, and that's the impact it has on your body.
Can't relax, your flight and flight,
Right.
your cortisol.
Right. So you were in that relationship. He was lying to you, but you didn't know. So that's the exact situation I'm talking about, where it's very stressful. The other thing is you're always kind of waiting for the shoe to drop, because he's manipulative. He's going to change the way he treats you depending on what his current goal is. So if he wants sex, he will be very nice and kind and come home and do the dishes or whatever. And if he wants time alone to use pornography or to text his affair partner or to gamble or whatever he wants to do, then if he comes home and you're like, hey, I'm so glad you're home, he's going to try to push you away, but he's not going to say, I want to be alone so I can use porn. He's going to say, I have so much to do. Like, you don't respect my time. Why are you so needy? Those are the types of lies he's going to tell you.
Yeah.
So if he's lying to you, you're never going to know what his goal is, whether he wants something from you, whether he wants to be able to do something without your knowledge. All you're going to feel is this strange, like, you can't really tell what mood he's going to be in. You don't know when you're going to get into an argument. Your arguments don't quite make sense. He's accusing you of things you didn't do. And that is extremely stressful. Usually when you confront him about that, if he's lying, he's not going to tell you the truth. He's going to tell you some other reason. So I'm not sure what he told you, but it might have been, that he's busy at work, or that you're too needy, or something like that.
Second questioning lies and then putting it back on you, and you're justifying yourself all the time. Yeah.
And why do you think women stay in these situations that are so draining for them?
I think they don't realize what's going on. We have so many societal, and this happened to me, we have so many societal and cultural messages that we're given that are just exhausting, right? One of them in marriage, like for women of faith, everyone is welcome at BTR. We're interfaith, interparadigm. We do interact quite a bit with women of faith who want to keep their marriages together. And what they're told often is that it's your job to like pray for your husband and serve him so that he can do better. So they're just exhausted because they're like praying all the time and they're serving him. And as long as she does her part, then he's supposed to do his part. Right. And I think that's not just with women of faith. That's relationships in general, right?
Yeah.
Like if you go to couple therapy, you're expected to do your part, but he's really good at pretending like he's doing his part when he's not. And you're actually doing all of the mental labor for not only the physical, like household tasks, but also the mental load of the household and the emotional load of repairing. So many women have told me, they'll get in a fight and she always has to be the one to prepare. Well, that's just to repair. That's just more mental load for her, right? So she doesn't realize what's actually happening. I think she also, when it comes to burnout, there's like only so much overwhelm that you can take.
Yeah.
Right? So you're already overwhelmed to the max. And then someone tells you you need to do something else, and it's just like, I can't. I can't do something else. So you're so overwhelmed, and it's like, why am I putting up with this, maybe, which is kind of a victim blaming thing to say, but like, in order to not, then she has to do even more.
And I think strong women as well keep going and keep going because they don't want to appear weak. They want to try and make it work. And I think society as well promotes marriage so much. I'm not married, you're married, but more important for me, it's about being in peace. I want to be happy. I want to, that without being burnt out in every aspect of my life. And I think that's what we're striving for when we created this podcast was there's so many people out there that I don't think understand their symptoms, why they've got their symptoms or what it's in relation to. So we just wanted to bring awareness, and what you're talking about today, I think is so, so, so important. And especially that people that have been in like abusive relationships, I think the aftermath when they come out is true burnout as well. And they have to look after themselves and go and look after themselves, like just take it back to basics as well.
Because when you're in it, your nervous system is affected because, like you said earlier, you're in that fight or flight like mode.
They're always picking fights, or like you said, lying. You're second questioning it. You're always thinking. I mean, for some,
and that continues after.
Yeah.
So if you divorce and you're co-parenting, that doesn't stop. In fact, sometimes it gets worse. And so it's you're dealing with healing from the burnout from the marriage, but then you're not healing, because when I say healing, you can't heal from something that's still happening. So you're still experiencing this. My ex is an attorney, and I received literal like 10-paragraph co-parenting emails in the form of legalese that were really just emotional manipulation. And it was so stressful to get those emails and have to respond to them. And he was just lying and making up stuff and undermining the kids. And it was just so stressful. And the burnout on that. I mean, being a single parent, I have 3 kids. So being a single parent in and of itself is hard. My ex actually was arrested when my kids were 11 months, when my youngest was 11 months old. So it was 11 months old, 3 and 6. And that is stressful enough as itself. But then you have your ex who is making it even harder. That was really, really difficult. It took 8 years for me to figure out how to do that. And now we teach women strategies where they can reduce that amount of burnout, regardless of if they're married or divorced, with strategies for, number one, how to think about the situation so that you can get clarity, because clarity in and of itself helps reduce that burnout, because you realize what you're able to do and what you're not. I mean, a lot of people are like, realize what you can and can't control. But in this situation, if he's lying to you, it's very difficult to parse out what is actually in your control and what isn't. So strategies of how to think about it to clear the fog out and be able to see it clearly, and then boundary strategies, and then communication strategies. And they work no matter if you're married or divorced from somebody like this. And they'll give you enough space so that the burnout can reduce enough that you'll have enough bandwidth to make some decisions.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, do I want to move toward divorce? Do I want to remain married even though he's like this? Women have really good reasons for doing that. It could be that she needs to be on her insurance because she has a really serious medical problem. I mean, the situations are so complex. So women need strategies that work no matter what the situation is to reduce that burnout, so they'll have more bandwidth to actually solve problems.
And I think it is also just being kind to yourself and aware, because sometimes it's not the kids or the workload, it's what's happening emotionally behind closed doors that other friends or family may not be aware of, because we've got this thing of what's happening on social media. It looks like the perfect life, but really they're really suffering inside. So I think it's also trying to be open with yourself and kind to yourself, which is a lot of things we've been talking about, but also honest with yourself. Is this happening to you? And that brings us on to what signs women might be expecting, but not realizing. What signs could you maybe say?
So the number one sign is anger disproportional to the situation. So for example, one day you'll say, hey, how did your work meeting go? And he says, oh, it was fine. And everything's fine. And then another day, he'll say, how did your work meeting go? And he'll say, you don't respect my work. Why are you asking me questions like this? So there's things where it's just weird. It's just weird. You're like, what is it? Conversations that are strange. And so then as you try to get clarity on that conversation, he'll give you a reason, and maybe that reason will seem to make sense and it will calm things down. But if you've seen a pattern of that over and over, then what's going on is he's lying. And then when you call him out on it, he comes up with a lie that's more acceptable to you. And then that lie calms you down. So he'll just keep trying to lie until you're like, okay, that does make sense. So if you keep seeing that type of pattern, that's one. Another one, a lot of women talk about how they didn't see any signs. Like he seemed wonderful and he seemed caring and they didn't notice. But there were other things that they would find or questions that they would have. So I would just say, like, if your intuition is going off in some way, like something's not quite right, then that is one of the biggest signs. Loss of time where you're not sure where he is or what he's doing. Those are some. Also, if he gets upset about like you looking on his phone or if he's up in the middle of the night, those are also really good signs. My podcast, if anybody listening, like I said, if anybody listening is like, I need to know more signs. Is this happening? I've so many women have told me, if you listen to like 10 episodes of my podcast, you'll be like, this is what's going on. Because when women share their stories, it's crazy, but they all sound very similar and you don't realize it because you haven't really gone into detail with yourself about all the things that are happening. And so sometimes you wouldn't even know to look for that sign until someone else says it. So,
and
there are quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've speak to so many people, and I think when you've been through it yourself, I can pick up signs straight away. But other people go, is that really what it is? And I'm like, do you not see it? And then, like you said, once they listen or see it, they can see it from a different point of view. But I think so many people don't realise the situation that they're in.
And they question themselves instead of the actual situation itself, don't they?
Yeah. And I want to tell women there is no risk. And when I really literally mean it, there is zero risk. Because I remember when I started studying this and I was kind of concerned. Like I didn't want to read it because I thought in my mind, well, if it's not really this, I don't want this book to convince me that it is. Right. I want to focus on the good about my husband. I want to focus on what we have going on. And I was worried about that. But I have had so many women listen to my podcast and say, I didn't really relate. Like it doesn't create abuse out of thin air. So if there's zero risk, because if it's not happening to you, then you can like rest and be like, that's not what this is. This is something else, because once you know what you're looking for, it's pretty clear. It's not going to make you think that he's lying to you if he's not. Because the signs are pretty clear.
Got into it because of the experience that you've had.
Will you repeat that question? I'm so sorry.
So obviously doing what you're doing now, is that how you got into doing what you're doing because of the experience that you had with have you gone through a divorce?
Yes. So I was married to a man who was lying to me from the day I met him. And the way that he lied led me to believe that he was a sex addict. And so we went to a ton of sex addiction therapy. And then when he graduated from that, he was dealing with wounds from his childhood and he was dealing with anger management. And he was just like always having these issues that he needed to work through, but he went to so much therapy. So I always thought like, oh, he's working on it and he's going to get better. I did not realize until later that he was lying the entire time.
Yeah.
So that was shocking to me that I went to couple therapy for 7 years. I went to therapy. He went to therapy. We went to therapy together, and not one therapist helped us identify what was actually happening. And I've interviewed over 200 women. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades. We've had over 8,000 clients come to us. So many of them have been to therapists for years, multiple therapists. So that is the confusing part, is you think, okay, something's wrong in our marriage. And you're so burnt out and you're like, if we solve this problem in our marriage, I would not be so burnt out. right? Is kind of the idea. So you start going to couple therapy, but people don't realize that that in and of itself can increase the burnout exponentially. So I have a workshop. It's only $27. And I'm like, take this first before you go to couple therapy, before you try sex addiction therapy, so that you know what you're looking at, so that you don't, if it's not going to work for you, you're not going to waste time and energy doing it. And then if you start doing it and you start seeing the patterns that I talk about, then you can be like, okay, that's not going to work. Because a lot of women don't realize how risky that is risky. It's extremely risky to spend, tens of thousands of dollars in couple therapy or addiction recovery with a man who's going to lie to you and use the whole thing to manipulate you the whole time. So
Wow.
it's surprising how many women have gone through 10, 20 years of couple therapy and they never found out. He lied to him the whole time, and never ever came out that like he was gambling the whole time or he was having an affair the whole time. Like he just goes to therapy and lies the whole time. So it's pretty shocking that happens, but it happens a lot more often than people think.
Do you know, this has always bugged me, and I still to this day, I'm like, I feel so scared for my son, because if he was to ever turn out like this, I'd be mortified. I'm so pro women anyway, probably with the experiences I've been through, but I would like to know what it is that causes men, women psychologically to become like this. The manipulation, the lies, is it a fear? It's always intrigued me because it's so damaging to other people. And they say addictions go from one thing to another, don't they? If they're gambling, if it's sex addiction, if it's, drug addiction, it always goes to something else. But then to lie about that in itself, that's just another level. It scares me for my children getting in relationships. It really does.
Yeah. It's really scary. I've just written a book about this. Right now, I'm currently trying to get an agent. So stay tuned if you're listening. Check out my website.
Good luck.
Come on, let's get you on. I'll be reading that.
But it talks about why they do it. And part of the reason that I'll share right now is because it works. So if their value system is more transactional and practical rather than based on relational, it's not based on values of like actually caring for other people. It's more based on values of using other people. Then the way they interact in the world is to exploit other people. So they're just doing, when I say just, this is not healthy, it's not good. I don't mean that, but in their minds, they're just doing what works.
Yeah. Well, like one man band, really, just looking out for themselves, like and no one else.
People is so important, and that's I think a lot of women stay because they don't want to face the reality that they're being used.
Exactly. They don't. Well, it's not just that they don't want to face that reality. They don't know. And the way he lies to her, he says he loves her.
Yeah.
And part of the time, it feels like he loves her.
Yeah.
So for her to wrap her head around, that's just a lie is like really, I mean, talk about burnout. That is so overwhelming that, you can't even, it's just inconceivable, because why would he tell me he loves me every day? Or why would he, go to work, all the things he does to show me he loves me. And it's really hard to realize that is part of that. It's just practical for him. If he says he loves you, you're going to give him a kiss, and he wants the kiss, but he doesn't actually care about you. And that's the difference between a good marriage that will reduce your burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
And an abusive one, even if you don't realize it's abusive, because they're not on your team, right? And that's the thing that I think increases burnout so much, is that women don't feel like they have somebody on their team, right?
Yeah.
We talk about mom rage and like, nobody is helping me and all of this is on my shoulders. Well, regardless of whether you're married or not, it feels so overwhelming. So if he's lying into her in a way that gives her the impression that he's on her team, but really he's not, I mean, imagine how that just adds to that overwhelm.
And I think also it just causes so much anxiety for women, and that's where I think all that overthinking comes from. That's just continued.
To me, does he not?
Does he love me?
He's contradicted himself. I mean, I know people, and you know, they've been with literally compulsive liars, and even when they're going through the breakup and they're like, oh, they've promised this, promised that, I'm like, but how can you believe them? Because they've lied so many times. But they want to believe them, but you can't. You just literally can't. But they still want to have that element of truth, I suppose, because actually the reality, and I think it does open a Pandora's box, that when they come out of that relationship, sometimes they do. I see people having breakdowns because it all comes tumbling down, and the reality of what they've been in. So this, I mean,
well, and none of that is their fault. I mean, it's
yeah,
not that they
no,
couldn't see it. I mean, that's like telling somebody who is in a pitch dark room that it's their
yeah,
fault that they can't see the doorknob.
yeah.
You know,
When you're in it, you
they
can't see it.
you can't see it. So if it's like they won't see it, I respectfully disagree. You're awesome, but I'm like, it's not that they won't see it. They
Yeah.
literally cannot see it because I found that at least with my podcast, it's been so gentle for women. Like when they listen, it opens their eyes.
Yeah.
Because we don't do any victim blaming whatsoever at Betrayal Trauma Recovery.
Yeah.
It's enabling them, and that also reduces the overwhelm because they realize, okay, I was doing everything right.
Yeah.
The whole time. I was trying to be nice to him because that's what you're supposed to do in a relationship. I was trying to do my part. I was like, he told me that, of course I would trust him, because in a relationship you're supposed to trust people, you know. The reason why I couldn't see the doorknob or the window or whatever is because he had literally blinded me.
Yeah.
I
It's
do
that
get that.
blindsided. What is the first small steps to feeling, you know, say you've got one of your clients that have gone through all of this. What's one of the small steps they need to do to feel in control again?
To start reducing that overwhelm, I think the way I describe it is that he has created this alternate reality and you're not aware of that. So he's like dragged you down into a dark, deep cave, and then he's built a fire down there, and you think that fire is survival. So anybody around you is going to be like, well, you don't want to leave the fire, right? Because if you do, you're going to be lost in the dark, black cold.
Yes.
Right? Because reality is just a pinprick that you can't see, that nobody's told you is there, way in the distance. Right? And so every time you try to, like, if the fire burns you, or if it's too small and you can't get any warmth from it, you're just trying to tend that fire. That's where your focus is. You don't realize that the truth out in the real world, reality, there's a sun, and it's warm and it warms everyone, and you don't have to tend it, and it takes care of you. Having these, I use a lot of metaphors and a lot of analogies. And so having women realize, okay, there is a real stable place and it will take care of me, and I don't have to tend it all the time. That, I think, is one of the steps to realizing what's happening, but also reducing the burnout in that situation. Because when you're tending to that fire, there's so many other lies around that. Like you have to help him with his laundry, or I don't know, whatever it is, that also are just overburdening you. And he doesn't mind that at all, because the more burnt out you are, the more you're going to stay by that fire, because anything else feels just too exhausting. There's no way, like, especially if somebody like me, you know, comes in there, I've got a headlamp on, and I'm like, hey, there's this world out here. Let me show it to you. And they're like, I don't have enough time to listen to 10 podcast episodes. Like, I'm already overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not doing that. I got to focus. If you don't realize, if I leave this fire, it's going to go out. And I'm like, it'll be okay. I promise. Just come with me into the light, and then you can make some decisions, but you have to be able to see it first. And I think that's the most important thing.
That is,
And it's
so important.
rebuilding that trust in yourself again, I
Yes.
think, more than anything, isn't it?
It's yeah, like you said. I mean, do you think you can heal while you're still in a relationship like that?
I think that you can heal, but you will still be injured, and you can learn to protect yourself. So I think of it like the strategies that we teach have nothing to do with him, but it's sort of like putting on a helmet, right? I have a really good YouTube video, and it's a metaphor of a woman who her husband's always stepping on her foot. And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. And she's like, it really hurts. And then the next time he's like, oh, you were in my way. Your foot is too big. Like all these reasons why he keeps stepping on her foot. And then she keeps talking to him. She takes him to therapy. Why are you stepping on my foot? This whole thing. And eventually she puts steel-toed boots on. And then he can step on her foot all he wants, and she can't feel it.
Yeah.
So whether you're married or divorced, and this isn't learning, and this is not the same thing as like being strong enough that you can take it. That's not what I'm talking about. This is actual physical, emotional, mental strategies that you build to protect yourself, where no matter what he does, it does not injure you anymore. So for example, now that I use these strategies, my ex is still the same as he ever was, right? We still co-parent, but now I am totally free. Like I just laugh. Like I get an email from him. He actually stopped emailing me because I use these strategies, but like it doesn't do anything. Like I can be in his presence. All of the negative like charge or energy or trauma inside of me is completely gone. And I view him as absolutely benign now. But you know what's crazy? He's still the exact same person. And he's still doing the exact same things. And that's because of the mental strategies that I use, the boundary strategies that I use, the communication strategies that I use. Those strategies have rendered him benign. And that's what I mean by like, regardless of your situation. So I think the thing that is the most important to recognize is no matter if you're in the relationship or not, if you don't have strategies to protect yourself from him, then he's going to continue to injure you. Healing when you're being continually injured is really difficult.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so important.
God, that's amazing. Wow. Anne, you've been so phenomenal.
Really insightful.
And I really think our listeners will really just, hold on to this because, if it's something that has clicked with anybody
I don't think they're
who are
crazy.
listening, no, you're not crazy and you're not too sensitive and you're definitely not alone. By listening obviously to your podcast as well, I think that's where you'll find you're not alone. There's other women that may be going through the same thing as you. And I think all your strategies and what to look out for, Anne, I think are fantastic. And, from your experience as well, I think that's where you can really, teach listeners and teach people skills and strategies, like you said.
Yes.
And I love the iron boots. I love that.
That is a really good analogy. And also, you're offering our listeners, aren't you, something free for them?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
I have a free after infidelity email course. Although I call it infidelity, if you suspect something's happening, or I want women to think of infidelity in terms of just lying, right? He's been unfaithful in that he's not your partner. So it could be an affair, but it could also be secret porn use or gambling or, any other type of thing where he's hiding something from you. So this free after infidelity email course, are you guys going to email it to them, or you can find it on my website? Or if you go to my homepage, btr.org, it's right there on the homepage and you can put it in there
for everybody.
Yeah, we'll put a link up as well.
Okay.
So I think also, if you're listening to this and you think, oh my God, this is me, this is where to go.
It's so interesting because, like you said, it's not just like betrayal in someone cheating. It's all those other things that you mentioned that I think you need to be aware of.
The thing that holds it all together is he lying? But then if he is lying, you're not going to know. So that's the part that makes it difficult. So if you do know he's lying, number one, we are the place for you. Like we could totally help you. If you suspect that he's lying, then we're also the right place to figure out if he is or isn't. So I think those two things are really important for women to know.
That's amazing. Thank you, Anne.
Love the chat.
And thank you for your time. I know we've got such a big time difference, haven't we? So I really hope your listeners and our listeners will really enjoy that.
Important
and
subject.
If anybody who's listening knows someone who may be going through this or could really click or like resonate with this, conversation that we've had today, then please send them to our way to follow us and listen to our stories. So I think it's very important and something to be very aware of. Yeah. And everyone, put your iron boots on. I love that. I just love that. It's a real protection thing, I think. And I always say put your cloak on as well to protect yourself from anybody else's energies that are,
it's the true way to reduce overwhelm, right?
Yes,
I mean, if you've spent tons of therapy and talking to them and all kinds of stuff, you're going to be really burnt out. Where if you're wearing those steel-toed boots, you don't even have to have a conversation.
Yeah. That's it. Oh, we love that,
Protecting
Anne.
your
Thank
energy.
you. Yeah, that's it. Oh, thank you, Anne, for coming on. And it was so lovely to have a chat with you, and very educational and very inspirational as well. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank
you. Have
Enjoy
a lovely weekend. If you're loving the show, don't forget to download our latest episodes. It helps us a ton by boosting the show and making sure more people find us.
Plus, you can listen anytime, anywhere, even offline.
And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Spotify so you never miss a new drop.
Want even more behind-the-scenes content? Follow us on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok at Burnout Mamas, one word, for exclusive clips, updates and fun extras.
Hit that follow button, send us a message, and let's keep the Burnout Mamas community going.